And we're back. Sorry about that, you guys. Huh. Yeah, you heard the monitor there for just a second. I'll fix this, I promise, says Belle. A quiet resolve, the same one I saw in her that night, from 3 days ago. But this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight when she looks at him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking in any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me. But if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand atop his, gentle, pleading, almost intimate if one doesn't consider the circumstances that we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton would never tell a soul, will never admit it even to himself. But it's in that sort of second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eye softens and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small, lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instinct takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all this will take us, and how this will all end. He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust, granted implicitly and never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs, and a promise to at least listen to her, without the teasing or the jibes. A favor for me, and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well, until I've understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where all this started, will provide some of the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims his dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars, worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined, line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner in which she holds herself among the present company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, and not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman and the subject of every gossip in Luxembourg.
Welcome everyone!
And Mum said we could have been good friends. Can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests that she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flip briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience yet again.
Please, make yourselves at home!
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night's going to go. And knowing that there might be some truth to what lies inside the place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
For someone who abhors gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
My disdain is likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles, a rare moment where mirth and amusement dance across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness of it, and how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation that we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold, and all of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet.
Chief?
An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face, though he blinks it away before I can figure out exactly
Ashton,
what it
what's...
is.
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
Well, or, the chief of police who's a public figure, and we should be able to figure that out. It doesn't help that he's not even making an effort to spare a glance my way. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze, darting between the people walking past us, until a small frown forms in his face.
Oh wait, Ash! Oh, what about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
Crap, 1 second, my boom is almost dropping the microphone. Yeah, you might think with the money that I spent on upgrading my computer that I would have bought a better microphone, right? Like a Rode or a floor mount or something like that, but What can I say? It's nothing that a pair of needle nose pliers requires. I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, he's already turned his back on me and was walking away, without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning.
Hey, be careful! About what exactly?
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and to send her regards to her old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already heading inside. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and follow after.
So much for date.
Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later, with the host's opening remarks given, and still no sign of her husband, the poor woman. The guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Let's take a look here real quick. This is the 28th, I do believe. Yes. Hannah and Marianne. Talking, Hannah asks for Marianne's opinion about having marital problems. And yes, she's going to step away from the party and will meet her friend Amy Lorraine, sadly. So she's already, or is soon to be dead. Fascinating. Certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations, anyway. Plenty of them, in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all it would take, and the evening would have been far more enjoyable for me. The pride in my own silly hopes, though the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. He can't even spare me a minute of his attention, or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the boot to... The big guy's busy covering the event, the boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he was wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table with a glass of wine in his hand. Next thing I know, he's gone. I didn't know any better. I'd say he only agreed to come with me for another reason.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled, or if she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Ms. Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. I don't think homely is the right word there. Comfortable and formal, maybe, but not homely. She's gorgeous. But I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. I suppose nothing's really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. It's taken me a while myself. She probably met a lot of people like little Becky through the years, who might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections, after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about. Until Ashton walks by again, in closer proximity than any of the times he's done so far this evening. Still, not a look of acknowledgement our way, though. Even if Ms. Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time that someone's made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past my co-workers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think that we're an item. Not that Ashton's ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready, desperate, wanting it to happen so badly.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
They really pushed the blush up really high on the art here, I've noticed. It's not anywhere near the cheeks. It's under and to the side of the eyes. Still, it's not uncharming.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
Awkward. It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat than I've imagined myself into. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more than once, so I've mentioned my parents are. Her face quickly lights up and a fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me when she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, that's an odd thing to talk about as children, and there were loads we could have started.
Yes, oh, I remember you! You were the cutest little thing with glasses! And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clues she gave me. Chosen all so that I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen. He's a detective, for heaven's sakes, but feelings? More often than not, it escapes.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele.
Which makes the whole talk about this even more embarrassing. And the more names she lifts off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to a man she most probably loves at that. While I'm stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short minute, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything else can be said. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself.
This is a nice party, Miss Wright.
You want to bet she's all like, Hana, dear, it's Hana. Though to be frank, I doubt she's willing to pass this up. The topic's already captured her attention.
Please, Hana's fine.
See?
We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
That seems unlikely in a story like this.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right?
Which you haven't been doing, Miss Becky.
You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy, that's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing. And then I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. And he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one that stayed by his side the longest. When in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. It's something I can't force on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it until the time comes and I can confess it to him. Great, if he reciprocates. But if he can't? If he won't? I've been too selfish.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, I might have agreed to that. However, the past couple weeks have changed the way I see things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out that whatever I previously knew might not even be true for other people. Or myself. It's sobering, and almost funny how things I might have said with such certainty before now have doubts muddying. But there will be time to mull about these later, because a hush suddenly descends upon the room, and a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mien that he always carries about him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hana leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to place it all together.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude, the manner in which he carries himself around people, and his unfamiliarity with that part of the city, of fucking course. Should have known. Although I'm partly at fault here, tabloids and the gossip columns have never really been my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama would follow. Seems like the kind of person who revels in it. Figures it'll find him on his own, even when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people can be lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me.
This sounds like the same voice actress that did the rather terrible mum for our dear Rebecca.
I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby?
She's pregnant too.
Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she's had more than plenty of venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hana. Maybe Luke, too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it's someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable that is right now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hana? Well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of her guests, I'm not sure she'll be all that willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman has dared to walk all over it. But when I glance at her, there's only defeat. A weary slump on her shoulders and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight's already been drained out of her a long time ago. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well enough to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some sort of connection with both of them. But the air of a person who wishes for respite, it's all too easy to see it in her as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to her.
Becca! This is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hana. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hana. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances. The be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's glowing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. But from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade for work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes, and most of them are probably searching for more gossip. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zach. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares speak or approach on our way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. A few steps and we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with him, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd, and I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hana?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got this strange impression that I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate, considering what's transpired, a smile worms its way onto my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded through the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs, the clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filters through their attention. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in every local broadsheet, tabloid, and Buxman. No wonder Luke's knee-deep into damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he's turned his attention on the media covering the event. Though so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zach isn't here. Can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull and a reluctant pause before the place becomes astir again, but shortly the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor, and their guests' excited talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of that. Simply standing in the middle of it all already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I came here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. Not sure what pisses me off more. That he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that?
You didn't have to lie to me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet, because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me than I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hana or Zachary. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and their guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much this scandal has shaken him. Not to the point where he's utterly lost his composure. He appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man's not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly, in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open. Behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is the one thing he'll always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders, he whirls around to face me. There's a long second of anger that flashes across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxborn if I could.
He probably pawns off everything onto their servants, and Hana. Pompous, elitish douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
As unpleasant and frustrating as talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. Right this instant, there's only one that comes to mind. Is it true, or you should be with your wife? I don't think he should be with his wife.
Is there some truth to it, then?
Yeah, I'm sure that pissed him off. That's fine, don't care. To his credit, he does appear extremely offended and repulsed by the notion. His mortified expression alone answers the question, but I want to hear it from him, even if he takes nothing short of a derisive tone just to answer it.
Daisy? Oh, Daisy. If you believed every scandal that came along, I'd have 100 children already. Do me a favor and give me a break. I get enough of this false shite from the tabloids.
Well, I'm sorry for asking. I just wanted to hear it from you, douche.
And now that you've heard it, does it change anything? Are we going to start seeing miracles now? A solution to poverty? Pigs flying in the sky!
Is some friendly concern such a hard thing to comprehend for you?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end, he just stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. I'm not too shocked it's caught him off guard. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with. Zachary probably wouldn't want to be anywhere near him, despite the man having the patience of a saint. Ashton, he can tolerate? Maybe. Well, I highly doubt he can keep it up with Luke. Dealing with him requires more then patience, and it's still a huge mystery as to why I bother. When the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away.
Maybe. I don't need your stupid friendship.
Good heavens! I really want to ask how Hana's able to deal with you.
He's interested. I can tell from his frown he shoots my way. He's likely wondering how I've ended up knowing her. I'd humor him about it on any other day. Probably tease him about it and keep him guessing just to annoy him if I'm in a good mood. But my own patience is nearing its end. After Ashton, the whole fiasco here, and now him? I won't even answer my own questions properly. Why should I answer his? Moreover, there's other matters more important than that. His marital problems, first and foremost, and his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here. So with a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away from him. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, only to have one last glance at the man who really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife and another person, Miss McCullough? And that shadow. No, a woman now. Her, no longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body, a crippling sensation gripping every part of me while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something, a warning. Before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. The brush of air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now the sensation, the fear and disquiet, it leaves whenever I see her. It's familiar enough for me. Wow. The parsing on that. I can do a better reading of that, because holy crap. Punctuation. By now the sensation of fear and disquiet that it leaves whenever I see with her is familiar enough for me. Already it's made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking back before fear can cripple me again. It's not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened. But Hana's still an old friend, and Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who's read.
Becca, where'd you go off to? If we're done here, let's go.
My mistake. The second voice cuts through the crisp night air. Is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps says, do I, so I can't... That straight face he keeps as I do so. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into
Shouldn't
it.
I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him if he had shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away or given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, A frustrated huff is the only thing that I can say.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over to his car. Although before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head when he tries to piece together everything that he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer. But whether I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hana Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now. Especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at my mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it's greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
Let's ask him to explain himself. We're not going to defend Luke. We just want to know why.
Care to explain your reasons?
Yeah, seems like it was the right choice. I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly in nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back, as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing tightly into a fist at his side. And then swiftly he glances away and shifts his focus to the line of trees nearby, like an answer can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What? Why? For the party? The vague answers he keeps giving. Does it include all the times before this? Or the years worth of it? I don't doubt his sincerity, but at the moment the forgiveness he's asking for isn't something I'm willing to give him. It's frankly I wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice out.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. And you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away. A short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting to see if he has anything to add. But he's silent, eyes still trained at a distance. It's the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside his car. If the door slams closed with the same force as the anger I'm holding, its sound merely vanishes into the night, unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time that we reach Salem Well. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate, whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away, purely out of spite, the second that I'd gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late. Ashton's flat's on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not that cruel to put him up to another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way, before a protest forms on his lips. Though he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile out in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again?
Professor Andrew? Interesting. Who is that?
I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight, and I just can't leave it alone. Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him as to know that it's about to turn into another argument. So before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my
Look,
hand.
I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, and grows quiet instead. Although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside of his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too... conflicted?
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go. And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
13 locks and a statue. This dude's a walking disaster area. The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things weren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by a bit of light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring after him. There's something in the way that he asked it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrews' number. It looks vaguely familiar, and that's when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton did not intend for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for all those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrews' voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxmorn's public library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is... It's not entirely bad, but it does require calling in a few favors from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get a more in-depth information on the Ermengarde mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with a kind smile and a casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can. It feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
I am assuming that, Beard Professor Daddy there is, maybe a teacher from when we were at St. Goretti's as a kid?
All right. But just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, he's also written a recommendation after his signature. Andrew Clark, Professor of Psychology and Ethnography, University of Luxembourg. And then the visitor's signature there. It looks like an R and a G for Rebecca Gale, and she apparently adds a heart after the end of her signature. Sure, why not? This is more than enough to get me those files. I mutter small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. And when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, his very face of curiosity. Not surprising, considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right there and there. God damn it, editing staff. What were you doing? Was it like, we're gonna send this for English localization. Hey, you know what? Stick it into Google Translate. Let's get drunk. Hey, it looks fine to me. Let's just mail it back. Jesus. Right then and there, I've decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe not all of it, but the stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. And as expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner. But may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Ermengarde Mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while, I'm afraid he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't? Luxbourne's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, and the warmth from them is suddenly gone. Like he's reliving a painful and distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. Boo, I got no idea what you're talking about. We are nearing the end of Rebecca's chapter. So, we have finally stopped being terribly distracted by the idea that we'll experience horrific, nearly fatal ghostly visions without telling our friends, and decided to start telling our friends. So that's good. We did get one lady killed trying to come out of the closet, so Does feel a little bit like a bury your gaze trope, which is sad. But on the other hand, at least she's not lying to herself, because she's dead.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much.
Lies.
But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws.
Oh my god. Bearded Professor Daddy here is all about the bear claws.
Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze, a gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and then quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to a cafe, until the doubts swimming inside my head find a moment to rest. Whatever his business with the rights is, isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things now, it all feels oddly relevant. The how, though, I'm yet to find out. And I'm hoping that the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor, in particular. And the libraries here are pretty much closed on Sunday, so that would be a gloomy, gloomy one indeed. Man, I've got the yawns really bad today, because I didn't go to sleep last night. I don't know why. I tried. Laid in bed for about 4.5, almost 5 hours, and nothing happened. Just tossing and turning. Ugh. The second floor in particular. I have always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours to no end, poring over the pages and living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now, it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the microfiche room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter, breathing is a struggle for air. Anybody but me remember how to use microfiche readers? They used to teach us that back in school. That was a whole thing. And, honestly, I don't think I've even heard people bring up microfiche but once or twice in the past few years. I actually went and was looking up some local records on microfiche a few months ago, actually. That's what I thought was previous discussion. Just to do it. There's a new PC in the house that was going in. Yeah. Not far into my stay, I began looking for the noise outside, and perhaps a way to calm the unease. Start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why of all things it has to be that silly nursery rhyme? I've not an inkling. Oh, that's interesting. This is what Kylie's been singing. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward and far less deafening than the silence. And that's enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams or important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless. By some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who've been affected by this... What do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Would she panic? Would she be angry that I only listened to her just now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this if only we had taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do with what little we have. That's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. Wow, what a newspaper to be around since the 1620s. Before the city of Luxburn even exists in the records, when the mansion had just been built and Anselm was nothing more but a small, sleepy hamlet near a river. And a lot of pieces are missing. Days and sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome. But as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what the record keepers of old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there, the usual singing of praises for the couple who helped bring up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, and nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved Warlord William and Lady Elizabeth Ermengarde, mourned their passing, and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. Well, that seems ominous. What's surprising, though, apparently her time also marked a more than superficial change to the place. She moved things, changed laws, and altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt is what eventually grew to become Luxborn City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms on my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try and recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, and journal I've read. None of those ever mention this. It's always the lord and lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes. The one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because she was a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, and not all aspects of it can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts of it are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life. Which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if only it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with the curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, an illustration would start resembling her? But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be the laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. The headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, and yet I'm nowhere near figuring this thing out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back into the respective envelopes for storage. Emotions no longer new after volunteering here a couple of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I set aside without taking a careful look at it. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back into the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, they must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate. Their likeness is likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to the paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey, according to the article that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself. Maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about that until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running on the floor above. Any day, and I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time, and I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief? Perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, only to stave off a headache building up from everything. I even began humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes on them. A feeling, a chilly brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again, creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without delay I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. And my whole body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumpling under my grasp fills the room, the excitement earlier gone instantly, replaced by cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me. More than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'd take a step back. Anything to put distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself, because if I do fall back or turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
Kind of got that smuggler's to her, doesn't she?
I'm not afraid of you, you spook! This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight!
Oh, she got the early grave out there. She's...
Come at me!
I expected that she would lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she does is give me a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time is called to a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision, and before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking to see if whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest, but in this maze of bookshelves, the whole place feels almost void of people. Is there even a safe enough place that I can escape to? So, in a horror movie, we have the option here. Are we gonna run out the front door, or are we gonna head upstairs? Seriously, man, we are heading for the door. If there's one, it's out of this room, out of this place, and as far away as anyone can get from her. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, where there's other people I can ask for help. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door, head downstairs, and barrel straight for the library's exit. Toward safety in a desperate bid for my life. Library rules be damned. Yeah, I don't think we're going up there, Boo. No. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. My breath almost escapes me as I'm near the door. A little more. When out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams into my side. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit's almost there, if only I can... But there's no moment of respite. The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight atop me, and cold digits slide around my neck, tight like a vice, pressing, closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam and the spite in her eyes as she looms over my body, and her grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrists as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go. Let me go.
Keep the slider within the green bar by moving it in that direction. Okay, that's hard. We just clocked her with a book. My limbs are moving on their own before what I could do fully registered in my brain and my lungs could recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp, loud, and thunderous against the empty walls of the library. But the fear her wails bring compares nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it out. Achievement unlocked. Quick escape. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement, the surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been in there a few hours, 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. Feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I probably look like the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning. Out of breath, disheveled, slumped here with a bloodied lip and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care, even when a few passers-by start giving me strange looks. Stare at me all you want. I don't give a single shot. I'm alive. And I'm safe. And this isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's still something. If Isabella's here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who would put her faith in it. Wherever this will lead us to is a victory on its own. Now all that's left is to find the others, the rest of us trapped inside this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if in answer to my previous thought, my mobile phone lets out a beep. I pick it up, simply hoping it would be one of them. It's only a voicemail that greets me, from Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing's happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there. The message, less than a minute long. Curt gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless, and do so as he asks. Because this, too, is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Alright. And that marks the end of Rebecca's chapter. So we have 2 chapters left. Ashton and Luke. And thank goodness for the fact that Ashton's picks up, like, basically yesterday. 2 days ago. This is the 28th. I didn't really want to have to go all the way back to before the party just to play it whatever he's been doing. He can give it to us in a flashback or something. Anyway, we've made progress. 5 chapters down, 2 more to go. If you guys are enjoying it so far, sorry about interrupting it earlier. Even though I'm on vacation, I still got a call from work, and it took longer than I thought it would. Anyway, I don't know if there will be any streaming tonight or not. Normally we all try and get together and do a movie night. And I'm not sure if I'll participate or not. Probably. I should be able to. I just know the movies really well, so... But tomorrow, there's definitely something going on tomorrow. And we'll figure out what it is. Anyway, I'll see you all later. Boo, thanks for coming out. Flipvine, Thronezilla. Hope you guys are having fun with it. Catch you guys later.